for more. Umesh Perinpanayagam from the Tamil Refugee Council joins us now. Umesh, good to talk to you tonight. The family's lawyer says the government has told them to abandon their case because it's futile. Will the family take that advice?
No, I believe that the case is going forward. I can't really speak of the technicalities of it, but essentially they believe that Sri Lanka has a legitimate claim for protection that should be heard.
So what's the next step? Because the injunction, as we heard, has been extended until Friday, 4 p.m, but the Immigration Minister says that the toddler's case has been assessed and her visa won't be renewed.
I can't speak too much about the legal case, but I believe on Friday morning there'll be some discussion as to whether or not that was done properly, or so it's still not clear whether or not that's a final thing.
Why do you think this case has garnered so much community interest and support? Nades and Priya have repeatedly been found not to be refugees, and at the same time there are hundreds of people who have been found to be refugees living in limbo in Papua New Guinea and in Nauru.
I think the community in Bulawayo sees this, their own community members. They've been living there for a number of years. Two of them are born in Bulawayo, and to see one of their own treated like this is something that has shocked them and moved them, and they want them back. As for the refugee claims, that the minister has asserted that they've been tested in many courts of law, but essentially the process is that it's only considered at the department and the Immigration Assessment Authority, or earlier the the RRT. The court processes only look at judicial errors. They're not looking at the merits of the claim as to whether or not they're refugees.
So you believe that both of them should be classified as refugees?
Well, the IAA in the case of the Immigration Assessment Authority, in the case of Priya, accepted most of the claims that she put forward, that her elder brother was a member of the LTTE, that her house was bombed, that her mother was sexually assaulted, her father was also assaulted and lost his eyesight, that she witnessed the horrific killing of her fiancé and a number of other men. This is the kind of profile that the UNHCR says requires protection. So on the basis of that, she has a genuine fear for safety, including her husband and her two kids.
So why then, if there is that fear of persecution, if they're returned to Sri Lanka, did her husband Nades return to Sri Lanka on several occasions after fleeing the country?
That's a bit of misinformation in that Nades first left the country in 2004 and travelled to the Middle East a number of times. That was during a peace process. The peace process began in the early 2000s. There was a formal ceasefire agreement in 2002. That ceasefire agreement included a guarantee of a freedom of movement for the Tamil community, including LTT members. But at that time, in the east of the country, where Nades was based, became increasingly insecure, and around that time he left to go to the Middle East. He didn't come back for a number of years. He returned when he thought it might be safe, but when he did, he faced investigation by the CID, a Criminal Investigation Department, and they decided it wasn't safe for him to return. That's when he fled in 2012 to seek asylum in Australia. Since he's been in Australia, he has remained in Australia.
So you don't believe the threat then of what might happen to the family if their return to Sri Lanka has been overblown at all?
No, I think it's a very real threat. The UN Special Rapporteur Ben Emerson said very recently that torture is endemic and the well-oiled torture machinery is disproportionately used against the Tamil community. And that is a threat that hangs over all Tamils, especially those with the kinds of profiles of Priya and Nades in the north and eastern province. There's a heavy military occupation there. 15 of the 19 or 20 divisions of the Sri Lankan army are stationed in the northern province. The military is involved in all kinds of civilian activities, tourism, farming, hotels, and even more insidious things such as controlling 25% of the preschools in the northern province. So there is this culture. There's a atmosphere of oppression, and that's what they would be sent back to.
So there have been many asylum seekers who have tried to come to Australia. Many of them have been returned because they've been deemed to be economic migrants. So has the department got all of their cases wrong as well, in your view?
Well, as far as I'm aware, the department doesn't keep track of what happens to these people when they're returned. There are cases in the UK. Freedom for Torture, for example, has documented numerous cases of asylum seekers being returned and facing torture. It's not the case that everyone will immediately be tortured, but the criteria for being a refugee is that there is a real chance that might happen, not only torture but other forms of persecution.
What about the criticism that social media commentary and advocacy and activist groups haven't helped the family's cause, and that the minister may have intervened had it not been for this media campaign that's been run?
I think the high level of media support is a reflection of the power, the community support in Billawheeler who have come out for the family. And if it wasn't for that support, this family would have been deported a long time ago.
But could the media campaign have done more harm than good?
I mean, I believe personally that if it wasn't for the publicity, the support that was generated around the country wouldn't have come, and that support has translated into the support behind the family that has allowed them to stay so far.
Umesh Perinpanayagam, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.